Good morning, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the breakfast stream. It's just gone 10 in the morning on Tuesday, December the 6th. Forgot what month it was. Excuse me. Felt automatically that it should be July, of course, as the World Cup's on. But the heating I can feel from across the room tells me that it's definitely December. I hope you're well. Thanks to those who are joining in live on the chat. Let's get into the questions for you over the next half hour or so. Ryan says, morning, James. Is it too harsh to say that those Japanese penalties are absolutely dreadful? Kudos to them for making it this far and making us Asians proud, but to go out like that feels like a whimper. Yeah. They weren't good, were they? There's always sympathy when a team loses on penalties. I think it still doesn't sit right that teams can spend 2 to 3 years worth of qualifying for a tournament like this, and it ends because a couple of players kick the ball incorrectly. The manner of these particular penalties was particularly disturbing in the sense that it almost felt resigned. It was so negative in terms of the way that the kicks were actually taken. And therefore they deserve to lose on penalties. It still doesn't feel right, but it's still the right way to settle football, isn't it? I think we've tried several things like golden goal and silver goal, and they don't work. I speculated on an idea yesterday for our advanced tier patrons that perhaps we should just have 15 minutes at the end of a game and just make both teams play 7-a-side, and the players left on the pitch have to be part of the first 5 penalty takers. That doesn't work, right? You're going to kill footballers. So unfortunately, penalties is still the right way to go. I know on BBC yesterday they were talking about the idea of going straight to penalties. I think it's fair to say that looking at that particular game yesterday, you were thinking this is going to go to penalties. And I don't think neither Japan or Croatia weren't trying to win the game. It just didn't feel like either team were going to score. And you feel like you're wasting everybody's time a little bit. And because this tournament was so condensed, Croatia are going to go and play Brazil now in 3 days, and they'll be doing not a lot today other than just resting up and recovering. It feels harsh that it's that quick of a turnaround. So there maybe was a case for this particular tournament to go straight to penalties. But unfortunately, I think the format's still right. In terms of the actual penalties, they were shite. And unfortunately, in terms of the shootout, they got what they deserved. Ryan says, and also, what's your thoughts on the whole Brazilian dancing? Is it disrespectful stuff? No, of course it's not. Should the manager get involved in the dancing? Probably not. That I did feel a little uncomfortable with, but he's doing it for his player, Richarlison. Richarlison's obviously egged him into doing it. I'm not sure that was quite right. But in terms of the actual players themselves, do what they want. It's celebration police again, isn't it? So I think I remember a comment about Jurgen Klopp made after Liverpool won on the opening day at Arsenal, good number of years ago now. I want to say maybe even 2016 or 17, good while ago anyway. And he let Sadio Mane jump on his back, and Liverpool went 4-1 up, and he himself admitted, he said the game was done. And it finished 4-3. And Liverpool well deserved to win, but obviously they had some nervous moments near the end. And he said he regretted it because the fact that he got involved in the celebration kind of gave him signal to his players like, yeah, we've won. And he's never done it again since, as far other than obviously the Everton goal where he went a bit mad and went on the pitch. But that was like last minute of the game, wasn't it? So a little bit more understandable. Not that he should run on the pitch. But in terms of celebrations, your players can do what they want, right? As long as it's within the laws of the game. I mean, what's worse, Abubakar taking his shirt off and getting sent on? I don't think he cared, right? He just wanted to show off his body and celebrate the fact he scored at World Cup against Brazil. He didn't really care. But if there'd have been a couple of late goals in the other game and Cameroon had gone through and he's suspended, then obviously he's an idiot, isn't he? So look, they're not doing anything wrong within the laws of the game. I think celebrations, particularly for Brazilian players, it feels like it's always been part of World Cups, Brazil players and how they celebrate. So, I mean, no, come on. We got nothing better to talk about from the game last night than how Brazilian players celebrated. Let's talk about some of the glorious football we saw, I think. Jay Greenham says, morning, James. What are your plans with Sky Fantasy today? I have 2 transfers left, debating whether to go with 2 Spain defenders or 1 Spain and Ronaldo. Well, on Ronaldo, you're obviously not going to see the team this evening, and it's not certain that he's going to start. Apparently Santos, the manager, is pretty unhappy with the way he reacted to being substituted against South Korea and refused to confirm yesterday if he would start. I would seriously be of the opinion that if they dropped him, I'd be worried about them. As in, I think they become a very live threat to win the tournament. I don't think they win this tournament with Ronaldo up front. That's my opinion. I'm sure, like I said, look, against Uruguay, whether he touched it or not, he essentially won them the game because of his movement. But I think they'll be a far more dangerous team without him. So I wouldn't be going with Ronaldo. I'd more be looking at Bruno Fernandes if you wanted to get a Portuguese player in. Personally, I think I'd just go for Spain. My intention today, I went with Neymar and Richarlison yesterday. It's not done me great. I'm 800th now. I captained Marquinhos, didn't I? So, look, nearly there, but it went against me a little bit. I had to take some. I was never going to go against Messi and Mbappe at the weekends. It was always a case of going against today and yesterday. So I went Marquinhos yesterday. At least I bought Richarlison and Neymar, I guess. So I've got one left. The plan is to go Tchouameni to either Olmo or Asensio. I'm going to gamble one of them in midfield to do something a little bit different. I will still captain Aymeric Laporte, I think. That's what I'm going to do to try and do something a little bit different today. Should neither be in the team, the backup plans to go Otamendi to Jordi Alba, which on the face of it might be a better transfer anyway. But my thought process on the moment is I'll come back for that one on Sunday. I think Otamendi for Saturday, then go Jordi Alba Sunday, obviously, if they win. So that's what I'm planning today. It can't go Ferran Torres. It'd just be fractionally short. So it'd be Olmo or Asensio for me. As I said, Alba's the backup plan if neither of those are in the Spanish team. Fancy Connection says, good morning, James. I trust you and your family are well. I thought I saw the goal of the World Cup when Memphis Depay scored after 675 passes to take it from Richarlison. Then he took it personally. I mean, if you didn't have some sort of involuntary reaction on that third Brazilian goal yesterday, it was just so slick. There's a lot wrong from a South Korea perspective, but it really was so slick. And the fourth goal wasn't bad either. Do you know what? They had some dodgy moments yesterday where some better teams might take advantage of that. But some of the football in that first half was glorious to watch. And that's what we want to see from Brazil teams in World Cup, isn't it? It's great. I'm the dude says, for me, football is entertainment. And goal celebrations were a part of that too. And also Samba is part of their culture. Roy Keane needs to lighten up. Roy Keane is never going to lighten up. I hate to break it to you. Sashin says, morning, James. I'm only playing the FIFA fantasy game during this tournament. And now in the top 5k, not that it matters. I'm on 104 points this match day. Do I drop a 6-point player for Bruno today? Thanks. Yeah. Go for it. Go for it. Is it any different to me moving the captaincy from Messi, who had 7? I'm dropping him 7 points to go to Mbappe on Sunday. Is it any different? I mean, Bruno, do you think Bruno gets 6 points today? Could he haul? What's the goal in that? You get 7 for a midfielder goal? Yeah, I'd probably gamble it, to be honest. Yeah, I would probably take one out. Also, with respect, it's good rank. But you're not going to change the world by just not doing anything. So if you're aiming for top 1k or so, yeah, I'd take the gamble session personally. Mirza says, hi James, playing World Cup in Fan Team World Cup. Disclaimer, I'm not. What's the best strategy to go all in on 3 teams? We can choose 4 players from the same team. Hope you see games playing out in quarterfinal, especially Argentina and Netherlands. So, look, I'm not playing fan teams. So I'm not the right person to be asking for advice on this because I wouldn't even have a great knowledge of how the scoring works or anything. But my thought on this moment would be, if you want to go with quadruples, it's Spain, Brazil. From this stage, I presume you can buy players today. So I think Spain, Brazil, and possibly Argentina. I don't know if you can make transfers midweek like you can in Sky. So can you move from Argentina on Saturday, or can you move from next Wednesday if they make the semi-final and stuff? It's probably them 3, I think, maybe. France would have the favouritism over England, in my opinion. But I think definitely Spain and Brazil. But I'm not the right person to be asking for fan team. I have to stress that. I'm the dude says also Spurs should sign that Richarlison. He's great. He had this when he had the powerful run near the end of the first half. which the keeper saved. And you look at him going, he's blistering here, you know. And it's interesting that I think I've obviously watched him very closely since August, and I've seen plenty of him for Everton in the past as well. His best position is through the middle, which he's not going to play for Tottenham because of Harry Kane. Although I do think there are occasions where Tottenham should play Kulusevski's son, Richarlison, and give Kane a break. There is an interesting point to this, which I raised on one of our Patreon podcasts last week, about Kane being a potential problem for both Tottenham and England in certain games. Don't misunderstand. Anybody who's listened to me previously knows how much I love Harry, right? But obviously, if you have someone like Richarlison, let me compare it like this. England will be able to play through France and their first line of defence, the front players, quite easy on Saturday, right? Because between Dembele, Giroud and Mbappe, you're not going to get a lot of pressing from them. Richarlison counts for 2 players in comparison. You'd have more problems dealing with just Richarlison as 2 centre-backs than you would dealing with Giroud and Mbappe in terms of trying to manoeuvre the ball into the second phase lines. Richarlison works his dogs, and Kane can't do it like he could when he was 22, 23 anymore. And there is that little bit of a nagging problem that England can't press fully. They can, but particularly with wide players like Saka and Foden. You can just drop Kane in a little bit and push them 2 on. Tottenham can't do it the same with Harry Kane either. And there is an element to that I think if it was Son, Richarlison and Kulusevski, we're better off the ball. And that's not for a single second suggesting that Harry Kane shouldn't start for Tottenham or England. It absolutely should. But it is, I think, an evolution, particularly for Tottenham, actually, even more than England over the next couple of years that needs looking at. To the extent, I'm beginning to get to the opinion that with 1 year left on his contract, if Tottenham did get a stupid amount of money offered from a Bayern Munich, for example, in the summer, should they now be of the opinion of considering it? And I've never thought that before. I've always thought Kane should leave for Kane in terms of trying to win things. Now he's got a little bit more of a chance. It probably would need to be a silly amount of money because still the revolt amongst the fans if they sell him will be massive. But even then, if you let him go on a free transfer next summer, maybe that might even be the right thing to do. I just think that it's that point's going to come soon. And again, please don't misunderstand. I love Harry. He's one of my favourite ever players. Absolutely certain starter for Tottenham and England nearly every game as far as I'm concerned because of what he offers on the ball. And his finishing, you can't replace that. You could say, oh yeah, you'll press better from the front. Richarlison not going to match Kane for goals. Neither is a Callum Wilson, for example. But interesting, yeah. We've taken to Richarlison. We really like him. Rich T says, morning, I have 1 transfer left in Sky but need a captain coverage for today. Want to switch my cheap enabler. Looking at Gavi, Guerrero or Busquets doesn't seem great. Any other viable options? From that, I'd go for... actually, I'm not sure I would. I was going to say Gavi, but Gavi won't hit the passing numbers that Pedri will hit. So I've got Pedri, who I'm fairly sure will hit passing numbers. Gavi doesn't. They do play differently. Guerrero I mentioned a few times that an interesting differential, but not keen. And Busquets, the problem with him is he's on a yellow card. So if he gets booked, either in this fixture or in the quarterfinal, he's going to miss a game potentially. So should that stop you buying him? No, not necessarily. I mean, the choice from them 3, I guess it probably boils down to do you fancy Portugal for a clean sheet today? And if you do, Guerrero might be the right choice with Nuno Mendes' injury. Sashin says, what are your thoughts on players' availability straight after the World Cup and how will he impact the Premier League and more importantly FPL? Cheers. Well, we're getting to that point where certainly we can start thinking about it. I've used the one me and Sudge have spoken about a lot. So let's just say England did win the World Cup. Does Harry Kane play for Tottenham against Brentford on Boxing Day 8 days later? Now, Harry Kane probably does because Harry Kane's obsessed. But I wonder if that's the case for a lot of other players. I'm not sure. I was thinking this morning actually about, say, England and Argentina was the final. what would Tottenham do with Dyer and Romero? Because Tottenham without Dyer and Romero at Brentford, if Tony's allowed to play, will get beat. Honestly, if we play at Brentford with a back three that's like Davis, Sanchez, +1, we'll get beat. It's not even in question. So I guess it's probably going to come down to teams' importance and how reliant they are on players. There's probably more. Take a Rashford at Manchester United. Do they need to rush him back in the same way, or can they trust a Garnacho? You've got Martial. Obviously, Ronaldo's gone. But did certain players have more importance to certain teams than others? So I would maybe even say the final was England-Brazil. Maybe Kane starts for Tottenham against Brentford and Richarlison doesn't. I don't know. I think we'd have to take that on a case-by-case basis where it will really drill down into teams' importance. Take Declan Rice. Probably plays for West Ham. Does Phil Foden play for Man City? Far more questionable, isn't it? So I think it's case-by-case and team-by-team. Once we know the semi-final lineup, then I think we can make real conclusions from next week, and we will discuss in more detail what we think that looks like. Because obviously even the semi-finalists would have the third, fourth place playoff. That said, they'll probably get a break. We've never been through this before, so we don't exactly know what's going to happen. I think in the majority of cases, key players will just come back and play, would be my take in the majority of cases. Rich T says, morning, I have one transfer left in Sky. I've already done that one, but thanks, Rich. Jim Pro 100 says, would you like to see the Premier League adopt the same approach for added time as we've seen this World Cup? Certainly think we've had less time wasting. Have they scrapped it for the knockout stages, though? Because it feels like this week it's been a lot less. I don't know if that's been a consciousness of extra time being a possibility in games, and therefore it's been less. It does feel like they've changed their own rule within their own tournament. But yet, certainly, it's added weight to, there's not been much moaning about, oh my God, they're time wasting massively, because the time's getting added on. And I think managing time wasting is something that needs improving. And from that element, it was fine. I was never in agreement of some people, even TV analysts were making a mockery of it, going, oh, this is ridiculous. And I'm not sure it is, actually. Getting more football here. There were certain ones, they used the France-Australia one, there was like 9 minutes at a time or something. You think just end the game. But in certain circumstances, if there was a team that was time wasting, it was getting pulled up. And I think that's right. And that's the best way to try and stop it. Sashin says pigeon. Yes, pigeon. Dave Lister says, hello, James. Good morning. Good morning, Dave. Michael Broadbent says, morning, James. And morning all. Best analysis views on how Switzerland unpick the Portuguese defence today and chances they can pick a couple. Switzerland are an extremely difficult team to beat. That's absolutely not a gimme for Portugal today. And if you'd have said one real surprise in the last 16, I probably would have picked out one of today's games actually to be it. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Morocco even took Spain to extra time. I'd be surprised if Spain didn't go through, but I think it won't be straightforward for them, and I bet it's not straightforward for Portugal. So yes, they certainly can. I think this Portugal is stronger than what some other versions have been. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if that's 0-0, Portugal and Switzerland, and goes to extra time. Wouldn't be that surprised at all. Can they unpick them? Yes, Zambolo's obviously a powerful player. Shaqiri still manages to do it in a Switzerland team. Midfield, they've improved. We've all seen the improvement of Xhaka over the last 9 months or so. They've got a chance. Yeah, I wouldn't rule Switzerland out today. Paul Jones says, morning, mate. Really enjoying these breakfast streams. Seems we're level on points in Sky after my block Brazil failed last night. Game on. Well, good luck, Paul. It's nice to have that motivation rather than why are you playing? You're not going to win it. Well, yeah, I was still enjoying the game, learning things along the way. Chris Smith says, morning, mate. Hope you're well. Thinking about the semis and Sky, if Argentina go through, who are you keeping from their side if Brazil join them? Thinking of routes back to our boys on Mbappe on Saturday. So, loose plan at the moment would be, and it has to be loose because the results can change it, would be nothing for Friday. I'll have really good cover. I'll have 4 Argentinians and 4 Brazil going into Friday, so I'll have 8. and then obviously move 3 on Saturday. Now, if they both win, my take would be to move the Argentina players. I think that would be my take on it. I just think Brazil were stronger, personally. They'll kick lumps out of it. I think we'd all love to see Brazil play Argentina, wouldn't we? I think from a neutral point of view, it hasn't happened in a World Cup since 1990, last 16, I think. I think that's about right. And I think there's been a lot of near misses, I think. 98, ironically, 98, we all thought we were going to get Brazil and Argentina, and obviously Bergkamp's incredible goal in Marseille. I don't think it's happened since 1990. I'd love to see that, Brazil against Argentina, because that's one of world football's biggest rivalries, isn't it? But yeah, plan for Sky would be move the Argentina players on, would be my take for Mbappe, and I would maybe even add in, like Jordi Alba, as I said, would be one. Maybe even add in another Spain and go that way, possibly. Might be like Martinez to Simon, for example, something like that. That's the loose plan, but essentially, if either Brazil or Argentina lose on Friday, that will make the decision for me, won't it? And then obviously, if you've got the right teams through, if then Spain, I'd maybe only go Mbappe, from France, England. If Spain, Argentina, and Brazil are all in the semis, then I'm in a strong position, aren't I? You can go 3 France players against Spain on a Saturday, or just go full in on Spain. On the Wednesday, for example. It depends on the results, and obviously those 4 teams will all play again for the 3rd, 4th place in the final. So it would certainly be buying players that would play on the Wednesday. Wait for that. So I feel like I've set it up quite well, actually, just a little bit behind. Chris Smith says, morning, mate. Hope you're well. Thinking, that helps if I don't read the same question twice, doesn't it? FPL Rover says, what is your goal of the tournament and game of the tournament so far? Goal of the tournament, probably that Brazil one. Like, it was just so fluid. The Holland goal against America was great. Obviously, Richarlison's goal against Serbia. The Mexican free kick is the only thunder bastard we've had in the tournament. Game. I really enjoyed the first half of Serbia-Switzerland. It tailed off quite a bit in the second. Best game so far. I'm liable to want to say one of the shocks, but I'm thinking that Argentina-Saudi Arabia's in my head doesn't feel quite right. To be honest, Cameroon and Serbia was really good as well. The 3-3 draws. I'd probably say that, actually, Cameroon and Serbia, which I had 0 expectations for. So I think that helps. Fancy Connection says, I reckon Conte has a bit of a dilemma after the World Cup. Richarlison is showing what he could do. That highlighted. Kane is Kane, Son is Son. And Kulusevski is the tallest magician I've ever seen. Well, Kulusevski is the most important one of all. So, yeah, look, Tottenham are blessed to have them 4 forwards, right? It's not a negative, but I think we need to change it up a lot more. And certainly, honestly, Kulusevski is the most important of the 4. We just do not work without him and his creativity. Michael Broadbent says, I prefer the best of 3 pens before the match idea. That makes extra time more exciting as one team has the edge in advance. Also give great TV opportunities at the start. But wouldn't we just end up in a position where you get the 70-minute mark and the team that knew that they were going to have the advantage in extra time would just start playing that way? I think there's downsides to that as well, and that's not right. Changing the format of what a 90-minute game should look like. I'm not keen, personally. Rhino says, morning, James. Brazil were tasty first half, but South Korea were a shambles. I mean, my God, they were so adventurous in a chaotic way that they just got torn apart. Had England done that, it would have been its only South Korea, whereas with Brazil, it's framed as the performance of World Cup winners. I think that's probably our own English bias coming back into that. So, look, if you're English, you feel like the narrative's for you. If you're not English, you feel like the narrative is pro-England. I think that's just part of being a fan and how it feels. But yeah, there were certainly vulnerabilities in Brazil last time. Weren't perfect. I mean, even someone who captained Marquinhos in Sky, I couldn't complain when South Korea scored. It was fully deserved. Thomas Hall says, morning, James. As an Evertonian, I can't help but still love Richarlison. Just wanting to give a bit of love for the lad who gives it all when he's on the pitch. He does, as I said, we've really taken to him. And I think he's one of them, let's be honest, he's a bit of a knob sometimes, isn't he? Like, he's easily to dislike. I think if he plays for you and you understand and see the work ethic that he puts in, he's got a great all-round game. I wouldn't say he's incredible at anything. He's not an incredible finisher. I'd say his work rate's incredible. It's arguably his biggest strength. But he's just a really good all-round player. He's almost kind of a modern number 9, actually, in the sense he's someone who could easily play out wide and stuff as well. Dave 2 says, afternoon, James. No questions. Bit my nephew, age 8, asked for a Messi Argentina jersey for Christmas as he's taken a liking to football over the past year or so. Feeling proud as ever of him. Get him an England one and put Bellingham on the back, mate. Chris Jarga says, I think football in general should have a serious relook. Too many games. It could be an idea, a maximum of 50 games per player per season. Greed is killing the game. Your thoughts, James? There's too much football. Absolutely. And it's only going to get worse with the expansion of the Champions League, looking to make the expansion of World Cup. They don't like this 3-group game idea, 3-team group idea, which would be 2 games. So they think they're going back to 4. Then it could mean it's 8 games to win the tournament. And I think the tournament's too long, to be honest. Potentially asking players to be away for like 6-7 weeks. Too much. There is too much football. It is down to greed. How would you limit 50 games per player, though? Let's say you're a team that's in the Premier League and reaches Champions League final. So, I mean, what is it now? Champions League, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 games, is it? No, that's not right. Is it 13 games? So if you played every Premier League game and every Champions League game, it's 51. Would you limit it to 51? Would you? But do you then look at domestic cups and go, can't play? Not allowed to play our best players in a cup game just in case. I don't know where the line is. So, yeah, there's too much football. It's only going to get worse. It's why the top teams need depth and they need to use rotation more, like Tottenham, as a perfect example, do need to get to the idea where they've got to be thinking we need to rotate Harry Kane now and again now. Tim Crescent says, did you see the Eto'o incident last night? I've seen a very brief clip of it. I saw rumours that he headbutted this cameraman. Not headbutted, sorry, kneed this cameraman. Which I didn't see, but certainly was squaring up and wanted to go for this fella. The thing is, we don't know what was said, right? For all we know, something racist might have been said to him. I don't know. For someone he's obviously on the FA with the Cameroonian FA, for him to react like that, something bad was said, or we've only seen the end of the clip, basically, or that's all I've seen. So, yeah, I don't really want to pass judgment on that, to be honest. Rhino says, is there a point to making a Sky team in the Prem game? Have enjoyed the World Cup version. Honestly, I would highly recommend, if you're not already playing Sky, set up a team now. Set up a team. Obviously, you can't finish first now. Set up a team and understand the format of the game and use this as a practice to be in a position from August you can win the game. I've said this loads of times on Sky that I think new players, and it has happened before, a new player can win the Premier League version of Sky Fantasy first time round. I really believe that. So if you're using the second half of the season as a practice, I'd highly recommend it. Dave Lister says, hi James, can I ask your opinion? Is Bellingham that good? Yes, he is, mate. He's an extraordinary talent in the sense of his age. He's near enough the best player in the team already for England. We're already at a stage we're talking about basically only Real Madrid, Man City, Liverpool being able to buy him, basically. Because he can only be playing it. So he's not going to make another move before a Real Madrid or something, unless it's like to Man City and then later to Real Madrid or something. So, yeah, he's a phenomenal talent, has absolutely everything. He's frightening for a 19-year-old in terms of that position of play. He doesn't look it. That's the biggest thing you have to say about Jude Bellingham, is he does not look 19. He looks 28, 29. And finally, Atul says, Argentina-Portugal final would be terrible in my opinion. Sure, lots of people would watch it, but football discourse would just be toxic, more so than usual. We discussed this on our Patreon Q&A yesterday, the idea of what would happen on social media if Portugal and Argentina met in the final. And yeah, wouldn't want to see it, but would want Messi to win it. was basically my take. You'd have to stay off social media for a couple of days because the kids would all be out in force. And unfortunately, it would be so definitive of which one was the greater player. Whoever wins it is the definitive Messi's better than Ronaldo or vice versa. And that's not the case anyway. You know, if Portugal won, Messi's still the best player in my opinion. Right, we'll leave it there before I get any controversial comments about Ronaldo, who might be left out of the Portugal team today. I wouldn't be surprised if both those games today go to extra time, is what I'd add to that. I think Switzerland and Morocco are both very dangerous opponents for both those teams. Spain and Portugal are rightly favourites, but they could be long, long days. Tomorrow, Angus McPhail joins me for the Sky Fantasy Football podcast, where we'll be taking a look ahead for strategy for that, for the World Cup quarterfinals tomorrow, once we obviously know the results today. And Clash of the Correspondents returns on Thursday. Chelsea versus Bournemouth with Gary Mansell and Neil Grover. Friday, breakfast stream will be back. It will be at a slightly later time of 11 a.m. on YouTube, with obviously an audio posted shortly afterwards ahead of the 3 o'clock games, which me and Suj are going to be doing as a watch along now for Brazil and Croatia for our advanced and intermediate tier patrons on Friday afternoon. If you'd like to support the show, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Just leaves me to say thanks very much to everyone who's joined in live on the stream. And for the benefit of those on the audio, cue music, please, man child.